Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, I keep bragging about the guests we bring on, and we keep bringing on awesome people. The gentleman we're bringing on tonight is no exception to that rule. His name is Tom Rose, and he lost his wife of 50 plus years several years ago to breast cancer. And he has written a book called Balloon in the Box, and you're gonna love his story. You're gonna love his message. You're gonna love his approach, and he's gonna talk to us about how he dealt with losing his spouse of 50 plus years, and the things that he's done in his life to continue to move forward, to honor her memory, to help other people when they find themselves in similar situations. And he's just a really personable and captivating guy. So without further ado, let's bring Tom onto the channel now. All right. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining us here on Salty Ginger Talk. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
You bet. So, Tom and I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago, and really been looking forward to bringing him on. Tom, out of life experience, probably not wanted life experience, wrote a book that's been very well received called Balloon in a Box. And that book is about dealing with grief after he lost his wife of decades several years ago. And I think there's tons of valuable messages to be had here. And we're fortunate to have Tom on to kind of talk through all that with us. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Yep.
Um,
Great.
Yep. Maybe a good place to kick off is just talk a little about you and your wife's relationship and before the book.
Before the book.
Yeah.
I suppose we were married in 1962, so you can tell how old I am. We had a son in 64. She was an X-ray technician. I was in marketing and advertising. We had the normal life, I think, but we just had the one son. So um, went to early part of our life going to wrestling matches because he was a wrestler, and golf matches and those kinds of things. And just everything cruised along. In 1990, purely by accident, we ended up on a cooking show on the local Fox affiliate. And we did a segment every Wednesday morning on their morning show, 15, 20 minutes every Wednesday, called Cooking Together with Tom and Joyce. And we did that for 13 years. So, like I say, she was an X-ray technician. She retired in that period of time, but we kept doing the cooking thing. We toured around the country a little bit, the Midwest, basically. But we ended up writing a couple cookbooks. So we were out cooking stores, doing demonstrations and selling cookbooks, and it was a fun thing. We didn't make any money, but we spent more than we made traveling around doing things. We went to Detroit one time, and I thought we made a ton of money. When I got home, we were $5 less than we went with because we went to all the stores and all the shops and everything. So we spent everything we made. But it was really fun. In 2003, that's when she discovered that we moved from the country in a big house in the country into the city, into actually this villa I'm in right now. And that's when we discovered she had breast cancer. So that was the end of the television thing. We did one more show. I think actually we did it from here live. So that kind of changed our lives. But in 2004, she had all the chemo and had a mastectomy and radiation. And unfortunately, again, in 2005, the same thing. But after that, things were really good. Life was great. We had a granddaughter who was a theater arts major. She was in all the plays and concerts and all those things. So we spent our life going up to the college where she was going to, watching her in plays and concerts and everything. So that was great. 2017 is when she found the cancer had come back in the chest wall. And the doctor said, yeah, you probably have 6 or 8 months. Well, she would say this, being the tough old broad she was, she hung around for 2 years. She said, I'm not ready to give up. So she would have said it that way, not me. So anyway, that's kind of our story, and then I lost her in 2019. Um, and so that was our life. Um, 2020 was COVID, of course. I couldn't do anything. I go out, I'm sitting here, a friend of mine, a fraternity brother in Florida, he actually called me and he wanted to know how I was doing. And he said, are you journaling? Are you keeping journal notes? I said, well, yeah, doc, I am. I get up in the morning and I type in how I feel. get ready to go to bed at night, I type in what happened during the day. He said, well, send me your notes. I said, okay, which I did. And long story short, he talked me into doing a book from that. The the story here though is, and it's in the book, but it's more. I've done 155 presentations for the book now around the churches and service organizations and retirement communities and all this. What happened to me was she died. She was in the hospital for 3 weeks in hospice. She had nothing but pain pills and water. I sat there and held her hand, felt her pain. I couldn't read. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't do anything except I tell everybody, think. And I challenge people to sit in a room for 3 hours. Don't listen to music. Don't read. Just think. And you will discover things about yourself and about your life that maybe you don't like. Like I always tell people, we're all selfish. We do things we say, oh, that's for so and so. But maybe really deep down, it's more for you than it is for your family or your friend or whoever you do it for. Anyway, I questioned all my beliefs. I didn't change any of them, but I questioned everything. So I tell people when I do my presentation, just try that. Just think about that. I sat there for 3 weeks, 15, 16 hours a day, and all I could do was think. You know? So that's where I guess that's where the book came from, and that's where my presentations come from. I dig down deep and bring that stuff up that I discovered during those 3 weeks. Um, and like I say, some of it's not pretty, some of it is. Uh, I make a I make a point though with my presentations. My presentations are uplifting. I tell everybody I'm not on a grief journey. I'm on a love journey because without love there is no grief. Uh, I'm a happy. And again, I'm speaking. I always tell everybody I am a happy person today. I would be a lot happier if she was sitting here beside me, and if she was sitting here beside me, we wouldn't be talking. I'd never written a book, and so life changed. So along the way here, in fact, we did a big presentation in a theater, about 500 people, and the theme was life continues, embrace the change. And that's what I learned to do. Now the whole balloon in a box, that's the gimmick I use, the balloon to do all this, to take on grief. Uh, I think like I say, I think she died on a Monday. She was, like I say, 3 weeks. And I think after the funeral and after all that was over with, and the funeral was on a Friday, and I remember we all sat here in my deck out here, and I'm sure there were a few bottles of wine drink, and all of a sudden everybody left, and it was 9 o'clock in Indiana here. That time of year, it's still daylight. I didn't want to come back in this house because I knew she wasn't here, and
Mm.
it was beginning to just sink into me. And I think from that time when I came in and finally went to bed, that's when my black period began. I spent the next 4 weeks just, miserable. Yeah, I didn't want, my family was good. My son particularly was very good with me. He didn't push me. He was there. Uh, he knew what I was going through because he was going through it too. I mean, it was his mother and they were close. Uh, so I think, that's when this whole, like I say, all the thinking, all this now, this black period, all of a sudden, like I said, it's it's COVID, it's 2019 going into 2020. Uh, and then everything happens at my house. It's either raining or sleeting or snowing, okay? In fact, it's about to rain here any minute. Uh, uh, it was November, first part of November. And if you could see my house, it's an open concept with a bar with three stools, a kitchen, a dining area to the right, living area back of me. And when I was in college, I don't know what you study in college, but I was in theater arts and some of those things. And one of the classes we had in was a comparative scene. And by that, I mean, what we had to do was we had to write a scene for the stage and we had to write it for the movies and to see how different it was, what you could do. Well, if this was a movie scene that night, you could have done real well with it because, like I say, it was snowing, sleeting, the wind is banging around. Uh, Picture this little old man sitting down on a bar stool having his dinner with his bottle of wine. Frank Sinatra on the stereo behind him and the fireplace going. Him feeling sorry for himself. No, pity, pity, pity. That's what I do. I don't know what happened. Got up and I think I was going to go over and change the music, and I caught my foot on the other bar stool and I fell. Fortunately, I fell into the living room area on the carpet. And I remember laying there, and my wife's favorite saying was, and I heard it 1,000 times in my life, it is what it is. Put on your big boy pants and deal with it. And that's all I could think about. That's what she would be saying, which I'm thinking, which wouldn't she really be proud of me laying here, half, you know, I guess half smashed. I don't know. Um, and I don't think I cried up to that point. But I cried. I cried that night. It came up in buckets. I mean, I was wringing wet. And I remember finally going to bed and laying there thinking, oh, I'm going to be miserable tomorrow. But for some reason, I got up the next morning and there was color and the sun was shining. And suddenly I knew I had to take grief on. I didn't know I was going to do it. Now, I have to say, back 4 months before I kicked God out of my life, I said, God, get out of my life. You didn't do what I asked. Uh, you know, uh, but I kind of held up my fist and I said, okay, grief, come on, bring it on. And I said, oh, God, would you come back and stand behind me? Because I think I need you to back me up. Um, and that's when this whole thing started. I remembered somebody had told me that grief was like a ball in a box where the ball bounces around and touches the side and emotions come back or feelings. I said, no, it's more like a balloon in a box. If you got a balloon on a string and you want the balloon to go to the right, it might go to the left. So it's a little harder to control that balloon. So that's where the concept of the balloon in the box. So when we got through the holidays, I did really well. I decided then that I was going to do everything we'd always done. So I did. That's when then my friend called me and he got me and he kept saying that. And I'm going, I told him, I said, hey, Doc, I said, you were in English class with me. You didn't pay attention and neither did I. That's why you became a doctor. Yeah, I can't write a book. And he said, I think you can, Tom. He said, I think if you tell your story, you let it out. You've let it out in these notes. I can see it. So, uh, again, like I said, it's COVID. You're nothing else to do. Can't go anyplace. You can't have friends in. Can't go out. Can't do anything. So I sat down here one night right in front of this computer, and I had my little glass of wine sitting here after dinner, and it's probably 8 o'clock, and I start in, and I type a page, and then I go through and correct it, punctuate it, paragraphs. I mean, it's really good looking page. And then I go, because I think if you're an author, you're supposed to use big words. So I go out to thesaurus and I start changing words. Okay, so I have this perfect page one. Get up the next morning and I look at it and I go, who wrote this and what the heck does that mean? And what does that mean? And what does that mean? I did that a couple times. And then finally one night I said, no, just write it. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about paragraphs. Don't worry about chapters. Don't worry. Just get this all down. And again, it was about 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had page after page after page on my computer. So that's where the book started. I took those notes and my journal notes, and I put it together. And my son helped me a great deal, and so we got it done. And I self-published it, and I did it. My doctor friend was happy I did it. My son was happy I did it. I guess I was happy I did it. So I said, I'll print a couple hundred copies and give some to friends and maybe sell a few to pay for it, and that'll be it. My neighbor asked me to speak at a Kiwanis meeting here in the community, and that was my first speech. And I'll do the 160th next Monday. So that's where the whole thing started. So now I'm rolling along, giving these speaking engagements, and now I get cocky. I think, hey, I'm an author. So, I think it's everybody's brain. You want to write a novel, right? Don't you want to write that one novel before you go? So I said, I'm going to write a novel. So I write the novel, and I told myself, I am not self-publishing this. If I can't get a publisher, I don't do it. Fortunately, I got a publisher, and then he found out I did Balloon in a Box, and he wanted that book too. And he said, I want you to do a second edition, but don't want you to change everything from the first. Just at the end of each chapter, write what you've learned, your experiences. So that's what I did. Funny story. The original book is called Balloon in a Box, Coping with Grief. And my son and I've been advertising marketing for years. So I told my son, I said, we have to come up with a new title for the book because it's a second edition. So we spent about a week or 10 days trying to come up with the title, and we finally did. We call it Balloon in a Box 2. So, so
A quantum
that's
leap,
right.
right?
That's right. So uh that's where I am. I'm a little old 84-year-old man sitting here in northern Indiana, just enjoying what life I have left. I don't know what it is. I don't know how much he is going to give me, but I'm out spreading the word with my book, and I think helping people. Well, I know I've helped people. Um, then so then what happens is um, I decide that I may like to do a podcast. So I'm down. My son's a chamber director of the small community here. I'm with him having coffee in their coffee shop, and their minister of the big missionary church there walks in, and me and my son are talking, and he says, "Hey, Brock," he said, "you wanted to see my church before we start to tear it up." Brock says, "Yeah." So we're going through his church, and he gets to the second floor, and he goes, "And this is our podcast room. But you'd love it. You'll see it. I like your setup. This is really, I mean, it's 4 microphones, a control panel, whole thing. And I said, I need to talk to you because I want to buy equipment because I want to do this in my basement at home. He said, buy equipment. He said, we use this on Tuesday. It's yours. And then, in fact, he said, I'll even be your engineer. I said, okay. So we've done 50 podcasts now. And what we did was because of my speaking, I had spoken a lot of retirement communities. And there are like it's Michiana here. We call it Michiana. It's Southern Michigan, Northern Indiana. There's 260,000 seniors in this market area. And there's a group called Aging Connections of Michiana, which is a group of about 220 senior service organizations. And they're trying to get the word out all the time. They have resource fairs and do stuff. But they can only reach 150, 200, 300 people at a time. And I said, if I had a podcast, I could reach more for you. So that's what I said. I said, so we call it Senior Talk Michiana. And we have people from all areas come in and talk about their services, um, whether it's like I say, an elder lawyer or whoever could, and because I didn't know a lot of these things, the Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff is very confusing to old people,
Mm.
and so we try to put the word out and try to help them with the information. So that's where I am.
Wow, what a story. And so I have so many questions. First, thanks so much for sharing that with our audience. One of the things I do on my podcast is recap themes that we talk about over and over again, and we hear from our
Uh-huh.
guests
Uh-huh.
over and over again. And like the whole point of our podcast is we want people to take accountability for their lives. That's all we're trying to do is give them
Yep.
the tools they need to take accountability for their lives, control what they have control over, and learn to let go of what they don't have control over. And
Exactly.
you talked about it so well. You did not choose, obviously, for your wife to have breast cancer. You did not choose for her to die,
No.
but instead of allowing that to be the end for you, it was a beginning of something new for
Correct.
you. And that doesn't devalue the 60 years, 60 plus years you had with her. It doesn't
Yep.
devalue the life you had together,
No.
but you don't have the choice to have that anymore. So you can feel sorry for yourself,
Yep.
or you can find something new that's meaningful to you. And you've done that in multiple facets. So you wrote Balloon in a Box. You came up with a second edition of Balloon in the Box. You wrote the novel. You've got a podcast. This is all in your 70s, right?
80s. I'm 84.
Yeah, you're 84 now. You started
Oh
in your
yeah,
late
I started
70s, right?
I
Yeah.
started 78. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just get tired of people. I'm too old. It's too late. It's too this. It's too that. Save it. Say,
Yeah.
save it for someone else because you're looking at a
Yeah, that's
prime
right.
example right here of a guy who could have just packed it all in and said, well, I guess I'm going to sit around and wait for the end. And that's not at all what he's done. And look at the value that he's bringing to the world and to society with sharing all. And it's not all rainbows and unicorns, guys.
No,
It's not
no, no.
all fun. But kudos to Tom for doing what he's done and facing it head on and helping other people figure out what works for them to do the same thing. So, talk about how you kind of started to deal with your grief. You talked about eating by yourself and tripping and falling, and
Yeah.
that kind of started you like
Uh,
started crying, right? And you hadn't done that
yeah.
yet at that point when you'd
Yeah. I
lost your
hadn't done
wife.
that yet. I had the anger once, just one day I had anger. A lot. I mean, I've talked to so many people, my speaking things, and I always say it this way: grief is the same for everybody, only it's different. Okay. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but it really does if you think about it. I get
Mm,
people that tell me they were angry for a month, and I was angry for one day or a few hours one morning. So but when I started to take the grief on, and you hit on it there a little bit, you have I had to decide that I could move forward. That was the first thing. I had to move forward. And how could I move forward and take her with me? I
mm.
think I've heard that from many, many people. That's a fear of a lot of people. They say, well, if I do this, I'll leave them behind. No, you don't have to. I've got my balloon. It's right here hooked to my finger. Okay. And that balloon's got all my memories in it, and it goes with me, and all the memories. So, and the interesting thing is over a period of time, the memories are all the good memories, and some of the ugly and bad memories fall away, and all of a sudden you got this balloon that's a joyful balloon. I always tell every people the balloon I had that might be 6 years in August now, 6 years ago, is not the same balloon that I have now because I've gotten rid of all those regrets, the things you say, oh, I wish we'd have done that, and I'm sorry we didn't do this, and golly gee, well, you can talk about that all you want, but it's not going to change.
Mm.
I always tell people, hey, you know what? You're born and you die. So somewhere in between there, in between that, you have to live a life. Um, so yeah, learning to move forward and take somebody with you. Yeah, the interesting thing is to me is your relationships with people change, not because of you, but because of them. Uh, my friends, I still have some of the same friends, but I have a lot of new friends now that I made friends with after she died. All the couples that you ran around with together, I mean, they're still friends, but we don't hang out like we used to.
Sure.
Uh, we'd go to dinner, and one night I actually stood up and slammed my fist on the table because they wouldn't mention her name. If
Mm.
somebody started to say Joyce, they'd look at me like real quick. I say, hey guys, her name was Joyce and she died. Okay. Now you could talk about her, you don't have to not talk about her. So and people have told me that's the same thing. People that I've talked to that lost spouses, particularly spouses, say, yeah, people are afraid to talk to you. They don't want to upset you. They don't want to put you in a bad place. So they don't shy away from you intentionally. It's just kind of automatic thing. It's just like, oh, I don't want to say that, or I don't want to do that with Tom because I remember when we used to do it and Joyce used to do it, and I like going dancing. Joyce and I love to dance. Well, none of the couples has invited me to say, why don't you come to the club and Saturday night there's a dance. Why don't you come with us? That hasn't happened because they know how we used to look. So, um, and like I say, then some new friends come along in different situations, and you're put out in a new culture in a way. And so once you begin to share some of those things, then it's easier. It's grief journey is forever. It's never going to be over. You can't change it. Uh, you so people always want to come up to a person that's grieving and they want to change it. They want to help them. You can't help them. The way to help them is listen. Let them talk. That's what they want. Their heart's breaking. They need to get it out. I facilitate some grief groups in retirement communities. And that's what I said, I don't want the books and I don't want the videos. Folks, we're just going to sit and we're going to talk. And here's what I'm going to ask you. Okay, married couples, tell me about your first date. I get big smiles, and everybody's first date's some kind of a disaster. So you get everybody kind of chuckling back and forth, and tell me a funny thing that your family member or you're used to do. And so they share those things. I see, share that regret. Okay, I always tell them we're going to share one time. We're going to talk about the regret. After we talk about it today, we can't ever talk about it again. It's gone. In fact, I take rocks and I tell everybody put their initials on the rock, hold the rock. We're going to talk about your regret. And on the way home, I drive over the river and the rocks are going to go in the river. Those regrets are gone. You're only going to remember the good things. You're not going to remember that thing about, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. You can't change that. So that's kind of the attitude I'm taking now too. So
I love that. We had it's interesting. We haven't aired his episode yet. but we had a guy named Stephen Panis on the podcast, and he lost his son at 16 years old to a drunk driving accident. And he said the same thing. He said people always avoid the subject because they either don't know what to say or they're uncomfortable or they don't want to make me uncomfortable. And the reality is the best thing you can do is just be there.
That's
Just
right.
be there. And you let people know that you care about them by showing up.
Right.
And like he said, there's nothing you can say to make it go away. You can't say something and change
No.
what has happened. It happened. I know that it happened. My life changed forever the
Right.
day that it happened. And I got to keep moving forward. Like I can't stop living simply because one of the worst things in the world happened to me and my family. We've got to pick it up and move it forward from there. And that's what he did to honor the memory of his son. Was he actually wound up writing a book about it too called Walk
Yeah.
On. And
Okay.
but he said
I'll look
almost
it up.
exactly what you said. So that's there's a lot there that I think is important for people to understand. So don't shy away from people that have had tough things happen to them because that's when they need you the most.
Right.
And you don't have to say anything eloquent or anything brilliant because it's not going to change how they feel or what they think. But just by being there, you can make a difference. Just having someone around that they can talk to Tom's point, just listen to them. Just ask
Yeah.
them a question and shut your mouth and let them talk.
The uh,
It's,
the interesting thing to me was is the visitation at the funeral home, and we had, I don't know, 400 and some people go through. The things that people say to you. I'm that way too. I'm always standing in line. What am I going to say when I get up there?
mm,
Yeah, he was a nice guy when maybe he really wasn't, whatever. I heard some things in fact, I leaned over and told my son, I said, if one more person asks me how I'm doing, I'm going to deck them. I'm just going to deck them. I
that's
said,
how
oh,
I'm doing.
I'm okay 100 times. I'm okay. I'm okay. Well, that's not what I wanted to say. And you're exactly right. I tell people, just go up and tell a person, say, I love you. Or
Mm,
just give them a hug. Maybe not have to say anything. If you give them a hug, they know. They know you're there for them. When you say I love you, you say it all. You say, I'm here for you. I'll do whatever you need, Betty. I'm here. You don't have to put a whole bunch of words together. I had a, you'll appreciate this. I had a lady actually come up to me in the funeral home and tell me, she said that I was 78 years old. She came up, she put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, Tom, you're 78 years old and you'll find somebody to spend the rest of your life with. I'm thinking, lady, my wife is, 2 feet behind me and again, and you're already getting me set up for the, so and had one person tell me, a lady tell me that she knew a guy where his mother and his wife died in the same month. I said, oh, that's supposed to make me feel better because he lost 2 people. I only lost one.
right. Yeah.
So I understand it. They don't know what to say, so they
Yeah.
struggle with it. So I tell everybody, just walk up and say I love you, or just give them a hug. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, when I find myself in those situations, I generally just say, I'm really sorry for what you're going
Yeah.
through, and I'll shake their hand or put my arm
Hmm.
around them
That's
or
right.
give them a hug, and then I'll just be quiet. Like I'll
That's
just
right.
stand there with them.
That's
Like
right.
I think that's the best you can do in those situations.
That's right. That's right. Like I
So,
say, and well, the interesting thing to me is I don't know, we call it the uh, casserole parade or the cookie parade here, where the widows show up at your front door. It's true. My doorbell be ringing and there'd be a casserole in fact, I'll tell you one that really, I probably shouldn't share this, but hey, what the heck? Nobody knows me anyhow. Uh, and all my friends know the same. I got one night, though a lady had given me a casserole. It was kind of an Italian thing, and it was really good. And I had seen her on the street or a church or someplace and told her, I said, really liked the casserole. It was good. Like I say, everything happens in my house when there's cold, crummy weather. It was in November. Front doorbell rings like 9 o'clock, and I'm thinking, who's at my front door? But did my son need to come in? So I go at the door, and it's this lady. And she's got this casserole. And she said, here. I said, oh, thank you so much. She said, that's a chicken casserole. She said, now, if you're a cook, you'll understand it. She said, I usually use canned chicken in it, but this time I use boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Well, canned chicken's cooked. if she cooked that casserole the same as she cooked that when it had cooked chicken in it, at time, So I said, "Oh, thank you very much," and set it to the side. And she looked at me real close and she said, Tom, you have the most beautiful blue eyes.
Ooh.
Now, Joe, if I'd have been 19 years old, I might have known what to do, right? I'm going, "Oh, thanks, that's nice. You go out the door. I didn't know what to do, what to say, except thank you and goodbye. So that's the things that to me that are interesting. How other people react, not you, how you react, but how other people react to it. How they react to your situations.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I love you talking about not focusing on regrets and keeping, people's memories to the good stuff.
Mhm.
And we do a lot on the podcast talking about just mindset. Like your mindset controls your
Exactly.
life. And so if you choose to be happy, you'll find a way to be happy. And if you choose to be in a bad mood, you're going to find a way to be in a bad mood. And one of the things we
Exactly.
did to try, yeah, to try to emphasize that is there's been a lot of research and data and information gathering from people that work in palliative care. So they're
Okay.
around people constantly that are
Yep.
facing mortality. And the regrets that people have are always, and I rarely use global statements, but I'll use one now, but the regrets are always about stuff they didn't do. And so instead of, oh, I wish I hadn't become an attorney, it's, I wish I would have decided to be an actor like I wanted to. I should have taken my shot and at
Yeah.
least saw what happened, or I should have moved to California like I wanted to when I was a kid, or
Was
whatever the
that
case
was
may be.
me. Actually,
Yeah,
that's my story. Uh,
really.
yeah, well, yeah. I was in theater arts, I told you,
Yep.
uh, college and living here in this community and well, gonna be 20 years old, and I arranged a situation where I could go to Hollywood and work in theater and learn and stuff. And then I met my wife, and she was an X-ray technician, and she and her friend were going to Hawaii, but I never became the actor, and she never got to Hawaii. So we always laughed about that too. So I always said I made a big mistake because she wanted to be a doctor. Her family couldn't afford to send her to school for it. And I should have said when we got married, "Hey, I will put you through med school, Joyce. And then when you become a doctor, I'll retire, play golf, and do
Yeah,
whatever I want."
exactly.
But I didn't do that either. So but we used to laugh about that all the time. Share a couple of things. So you understand my wife, okay?
Mm,
My wife was a zinger, and she developed that after we got married. Before we got married, she was so quiet and bashful and everything, but suddenly, like after a couple of years around me and my friends, she became this. She would zing people all the time, and particularly me. One night we were standing in our kitchen cleaning up the dishes after dinner, and we got to talking about mistakes, and she got hung up on some mistake she'd made. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't anything important. And she kept on it and kept on it and kept on it. And finally, I looked at her and said, "Joyce, sometimes you have to embrace your mistakes." She walked over and gave me a hug, kiss on the cheek, and walked out of the room. And I thought it was really nice until I look at her standing in the other room grinning at me. So, and I tell everybody well, I think it was our 19th anniversary, 18th. It wasn't one that was important. We're just the two of us out to dinner.
yeah.
And we were having a nice time. And I said, "Joyce, I have a question. Why did you marry me?" She looked at me and she said, "Oh, that's real easy." I said, "Oh, why?" She said, "Because you're funny." I said, "Oh." She said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I thought it was because I was a great lover." She said, "See, you are funny." So you understand a little bit. That was kind of
Yeah.
our life, and I got zinged all the time, doing stuff. So like I say, telling me to put on your big boy pants and deal with it was. I heard it 10,000 times. I don't. Every time I was down about something, that was the line. And
Yeah, that's
she always did it. I came home, shared this. I came home, I was in a business and lost it. About $750,000. I came home and I told her it was on a Friday. I said, I did. It's gone. I said, the problem is I owe the money to not a bank. Been a bit of bank, I'd have declared bankruptcy and gone, but no, it was to friends and other investors. So I said, no, I'm paying it back, which I did. It took me 25 years, but I did.
mm,
But to say that to a woman and then have her look you in the eye and say, I got your back. I got your back, guy. We'll
mm,
get through this. Because I didn't think I could get through it. She said, we'll get through this. Okay. And we did. And here I am. I don't have anything now, but it's all back there. But at least I gave it all back. I don't feel anything here that I owe somebody something. I didn't beat anybody out of anything. It took me a long time and they didn't get a lot of interest out of it, but they got their money back. So
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
No,
No, it's I love those stories. My wife and I are halfway to where you made it with your wife. It's our 33-year anniversary this summer. And it's all of those to me, the things I think about and that I love about our relationship are all the little things, just the little inside conversations and the time you spend, joking around about stuff. And we deal with tough situations with humor. That's just kind of how we
that's
operate
right.
because if you let that stuff get you, it's going to get you. And it's
That's right.
easy to let
It,
it kind of weigh on your shoulders and get real serious. And if you don't let it get that way, you can usually keep your wits about you and find a way to deal with it.
yeah. Well, I found that's her strength. I could have caved a lot of times, and she wouldn't let me. And you're not no, that's not going to happen. And it didn't because she was there. Uh, it's to have that person in your life. I just had a discussion with a neighbor down there. We were sitting outside there. We have a neighbor has a big chocolate lab, and we throw the frisbee to it. So
Hmm.
anyway, we were all sitting there about 4 o'clock, and somebody asked me, said, "Would you ever get married again?" I said, I won't say never. So I can't say never because I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think so. And the reason is I don't know that I could find somebody that could stand up to her standards. When you set a standard, and then you start looking for somebody to fit into it, it's hard to do. Now, some girl may come along, and I enjoy going out with a woman and having dinner with the friends and dancing or whatever. But you know, I don't think I could share my life with somebody again. I had
Yeah,
a
it's funny. And hopefully I don't have uh to deal with this for a long time. But I think the same way about if something happened to my wife and I was the one left. I find it hard to believe I would get married again, not because of any negative thing, but because I've had it so good for 33 years. I have stuff, I've had a relationship that most people just don't ever get.
yeah,
And I feel like I'm on house money. I'm playing on house money big
yep,
time right now.
yeah.
And it'd be so unfair to ask someone to be compared to what I've had. So again, hopefully I shouldn't say never. Hopefully I don't wind up in that situation for a long
You can't
time.
you can't
But
say never, but you
yeah,
say it.
that's right.
Yeah, and probably you're supposed to go first. You know that the guy's supposed to be the one. I always tell women. I said, I think you stand there when you're getting married, going, I don't think he's going to be with me all the way through this, so I better start paying attention right away. Because and I have a gal called me from our church and she said, I have a gentleman's lost his wife and he has just totally lost. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to turn the vacuum cleaner on. He doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to run the washer and dryer, all that stuff. And she said, would you talk with him? I said, I would be happy to talk with him, but he has to call me. And he
Yeah.
did. And he did. And his name was Charlie. And I said, hey, Charlie, you make coffee. He said, I can make coffee. I said, I'll be over for a cup. So we went through his house and I said, hey, figured out the washer dryer pretty easy, and the vacuum cleaner wasn't difficult. And then he said, I need food, and he said, let's go to the grocery store. I need food. I said, nope, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't go to the grocery store. We make a list, and then we go to the grocery store. What kind of food do you like? And we looked at his pantry and what was in there, and you know, uh, so we went to the grocery store and we did all this stuff. But it really, what the funny thing is that let's see, it would have been last August, late last August. I get this call, Charlie. He said, "Hey," he said, "my family just said we're having a Labor Day family picnic, and my daughter told me I could bring the potato chips." And he said, I got upset and told her I wasn't bringing the potato chips. I was bringing a casserole. I said, good. He said, what's a casserole? So I said, I'm not bailing you out here, Charlie. You've been cooking, you've been doing really well. I'm going to send you an easy recipe. And you can call me on the phone when you're making it, but I'm not coming over there and helping you. So anyway, he did the casserole, and a week later he called me and he said, my casserole was a hit. He said, everybody loved it. And he said, everybody accused me of having somebody else make it. But he said, my daughter finally figured out it was mom's dish, so I had to have made it. So, but I loved it when he said, I told her I'd bring a casserole, and then he wanted to know what a casserole was. I said, we're in trouble. So that's the other thing. I was fortunate. I knew how to do things. I know how to do the laundry, and we cooked together, so I can cook, and I knew how to clean the house because we did it together. So, and that was part of our thing. I think, in a way, uh, we wanted each other. We didn't need each other. She could take a hammer and a screwdriver and fix a screen door that needed to be fixed. She wasn't. And so we didn't depend on each other from that standpoint. I could cook. If she wasn't going to worry about me. If she was gone, I was going to survive because I'm going to cook for myself. I'm going to do things. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I see with some people. Some people don't have. And I another funny story. I don't know how funny it is. I had a lady from a neighboring community, well, about 100 miles away. I had spoken. She called me and she said, Mr. Rose, you spoke, and I talked to you afterwards. And I said, well, I kind of remember. She said, I said, how long had it been? She said, well, 10 years since I lost my husband. And I said, oh, I said, well, okay. She said, I've got a friend, a male friend, and we've been going out and having dinner and going to the theater and stuff. I said, oh, that's nice. That's great. She said, well, I'm worried because Saturday night he said he's taking me out to a special dinner. And I said, I think he's going to ask me to marry him. And she said, I don't know what to do. I said, well, her name was Helen. I said, Helen, I don't know what to tell you. I will tell you this. Uh, I said, if you really love the guy, the guy is really something special. I said, if he does, you can tell him, you can say, hey, I can give you my heart, but there's a big piece of it missing,
Mm.
which you can never have. If he can accept that, then you have a decision to make. Well, she called actually a couple of weeks ago, and they're getting married. So, but that's my thing too. My heart's there. There's a big chunk missing, and it's never going to be there.
Yeah, right. And so, but that's what I love about your message is that like you didn't no one would choose to go through what you went through, but you don't get a choice sometimes. Like you have
No,
to go through what you have to go through.
no,
And I'm sure even though it was difficult, and you talked about it earlier in our conversation about sitting in the hospice room with your wife for 3 weeks and just thinking, and you wouldn't trade those 3 weeks for anything. As hard as they
no,
were and as difficult as they
right,
were, you never would have traded those. You never would have missed that time with
no,
her.
no.
But it changes you. Like it makes you a different person, and you've got to figure out how to move your life forward after that.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting about it too is like I say, she was there for 3 weeks, nothing but pain pills and water. And the Thursday before she died, so it was 2.5 weeks she'd been in there. My granddaughter, I think I mentioned, she's in theater arts and all and stuff. And Joyce had said to me, "Oh, I won't get to hear Amanda sing again." Well, my family would come to the hospital, relieve me about 4 o'clock so I could come home or shower, get something to eat,
Sure.
check the mail, do things. And that particularly Thursday, Amanda came and she put a concert on for her grandma, I guess for the whole wing of the hospital. But so I go back and, at 8 o'clock, they turn the lights down in the hospital and I got settled in my lounge chair there that I slept in.
Yeah.
And my wife sits up in bed. Now, remember, it's been almost 3 weeks. Sits up in bed, very alert, points a finger at me and said, we have to talk. Now, when my wife said, I don't know about your wife, but if your wife
Yeah,
said to
now
me,
you're in trouble. I know what we have to
you're going to
talk
talk,
means. It's
you're
not
going to
telling you what a
talk.
great guy you are.
No, no, that's right. So she's telling me about what she wants at the funeral home. She doesn't want all the movies or videos and pictures. And actually, she said, there's a green bag in the closet. That's what I want there. I found out it was a couple of our cookbooks and a couple of articles about us doing cooking together.
Mm,
Uh, that's what she wanted there. And we talked. She was very lucid. I couldn't believe how lucid she was. We talked about a lot of things. And her final thing was, with holding my hand, she looked at me and she said, I love you. I'll see you in church.
mm.
Now I laugh and people was getting up. I said, do you realize the woman couldn't go without giving a command? The last thing she said was a command. I'll see you in church. I've got to go to church. She could have left it with, I love you. She said, I love you. I could have carried that with me, but no, she said to say, I'll see you in church. I always ask women if they can say a sentence without a command at the end. No, you come home working. She says, hi Joe, how was your day? And you say, okay. She's, oh, would you take the garbage out? And by the way, while you're in the garage, check the right front tire of my car. I think it's low, this was so and I had a lady in again someplace and she came up. She was really angry with me. She said, "You make fun of what the last thing your wife told you." I said, "Ma'am, understand that was our life. I told you
Yeah.
about the other zingers. She said she had to zing me. That the last thing she had to do was zing me a little bit. So, anyway, and that always brings a chuckle to me when I think about it. I think, yeah, yeah, you had to do that. So that's
Yeah, well, and like you said earlier, Tom, grief is the same, but it's different for
mhm.
everyone, right? So that might
Mhm.
be the way you process and handle it, and that might not work for her, and that's fine. But it's not your
That's right.
place to tell her how to handle it, and it's not her
That's
place to
right.
tell you how to
That's
handle
right.
it. So where do you see? So you've got a lot of experience with this now because you've written your book and you're speaking and you're doing podcasts and you're talking to a lot of people about this subject. Where do you see people get stuck the most? Like at what step or part do they tend to get hung up more often?
I think they get hung up where I got hung up in what I call my black period.
Mm,
Uh, they get hung up there, and that's hard to get out of. I've had people tell me, I've had one a lady walk up to me and said, "Can I give you a hug?" I said, "Sure." I always take hugs from ladies, and she was a friend with her. She said, "You got me out of my black period." And I said, "Oh, good." I said, "How long's it been?" And she said, 8 years. I
oh
said, "Oh my
my.
God." I said, "Oh my God. I wouldn't be here if it had been 8 years." And her friend said, "No, she's right." She said, "I saw her smile and laugh for the first time tonight for some of the things you said." So, there's 8 years. Uh, I had a friend pass away here 7 weeks ago, high school friend. His wife came last night, called me up, and she said, "I come over. Will you give me a glass of wine?" I said, "Well, certainly." She just wanted to talk. She wanted to talk. She didn't want to talk to her family.
Yep.
And she didn't, we weren't friends. I mean, we knew each other but she didn't want to talk to her friends. She wanted to talk to somebody else. She had things to say and tell the story. We sat here from 4 o'clock until 7:30. And she just talked. We did what we're doing now. And
Mm,
she walked out. She said, "I feel so good." I really feel good. I said all those things. We talked about all those things um, that I couldn't talk to other people. I couldn't talk to my family about some of them. So I, that's the other thing we talked about it earlier. Just listen, please. Just listen to the person. That's all they want is somebody to hear their story. I say the griever needs three things. They need to find the words, say the words, and know those words have been heard. And I'm lucky because my book, I get to do that. I found the words and I'm saying the words and I know they're being heard by people. So that's great for me. But yeah, that's the tough one. Getting out of that and it doesn't happen the first week or 2 weeks necessarily. I've had some people because you're so confused with what's going on. You got all things to do, particularly in the case where it's not expected.
mm.
A guy drops over a heart attack, and all of a sudden the woman's got to take over. She wasn't planning on doing all this stuff. She's got to make arrangements at the funeral home and do all these things and do all of a sudden the finances and everything. It may be a month. And all of a sudden, all that stuff clears away, and then all of a sudden it hits, and it hits the person. Oh my God, they're gone. They are gone. Um, and I had a lady tell me that too. She said it took about a month because I was doing so many things. She said cars and just paying the bills and the insurance and that bank and all this stuff. She said it was just totally confusing to me. And I said I had help from my family, but she said I was busy. I was busy. All of a sudden, everything was taken care of, and I sat down and took a deep breath. And she said that's when it all suddenly hit me. He's gone and he's not coming back. He's not walking through that door.
Yeah.
Uh, and she said, she said, I think I handled it pretty well. She said, uh, it took me about three or 4 weeks to really get in the thing like I did. Hey, I got to deal with it. I got to move forward. I think that's the thing. Somewhere along the line, I think they just got to stand up like you would with any situation and say, okay, like I said, people are born and people die and they're gone and I have to deal with it. Now I can do like you said, I could turn into an alcoholic and sit in a chair and watch TV and rot away, or I can go on about my life and live my life the best way I can. But again, back to what your question was. I think it's that period after the stuff's all over with before the good stuff begins, that period in between there that just and that's what this gal, when we talked last night, that's what she's going through. She's at that point now where everything's taken care of and done, and now she doesn't know. One of the other things I get too is I always tell people don't make any decisions for 6 months
Mm.
because it'll be wrong. I have a friend that she actually sold her house, moved to the big city where her family is, thinking I can be with my family. Well, what she forgot when she got there was her family has a life. Her granddaughters have a life. She thought it was going to be great to be with them. She was also out of a big city without her friends. So uh, she's moved back here. She came back and rented an apartment to live back here after selling
Mm.
her house because her friends are here. I said, you can go to the big city and see your family and be with your granddaughters, but they've got lives. They're in high school, They're
Yeah.
doing all kinds of things. They're not going to be coming over to grandma's house every afternoon after school and staying there till 10 o'clock at night. They're going to happen. So, and that's what she went through. So she said, yeah, I made a mistake. She's selling the house is okay. She said, I got a nice apartment here now. But she said, no, trying to move to Indianapolis was not a big deal, you know.
Mm.
So anyway, that's the things that I hear from people too.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I love the way you kind of walked through that. So it sounds like, uh, from your perspective, at least, the best way out of that period is you got to find the words to express what's going on. You got to
Right.
say the words to
Yes,
express what's going on. And you got to feel like somebody heard those words. And,
exactly.
and that kind of gets you to the point where you can start moving forward on other
Right.
things.
When
Yeah.
you can do what this lady did last night in my house, well, actually on my deck, sitting on my deck, glass of wine and talking. That's why she felt good when she left, because she did that. She got it all out. She got it all out without somebody in her family saying, "Oh, mom, no, mom, we don't need to talk about that." Yes, we do. Yes, she told me that. She said every time I bring this up or that up or that up, one of the kids will say, "Oh, mom, we don't need to talk about it. Let's move forward." No, she needs to talk about it. She needs
Mm.
to get those things out. Now, then she can move forward. The other thing is that, and maybe you've figured it out too. I don't tell people, but people haven't figured out that my balloon is my brain. That's what the balloon is. That's where all your memories are. That's where you store everything. Uh, and so I I keep telling people every once in a while, and it's been 6 years. It still happens to me. All of a sudden, most of the time I have the control, okay? 99, 98, 97% of the time I have the control. But every once in a while, something happens, bring something back, and it stops me. I go, oh, maybe you get the tears. Uh, I don't want it to happen in the supermarket when I'm over at the fruit counter standing there, you know. So when I'm sitting here, if I get up from dinner and walk out on my deck and see something or something in it, and most of the time they're happy tears, a little tear down because it's a happy memory. You know, I remember something that she did, what she told me, funny things she did to me or whatever. So uh, that's 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 the thing that people have to learn to do. We talked about the regrets, and I don't talk about this regret because I'm still hanging on to it. I use it in my presentation, so I have to talk. When I talk about regrets, I tell people. But no, my patio or my decks out here, and the golf courses to the left, and actually cemeteries to the right. Big green, everything green, beautiful. In the fall, the trees are very pretty in this cemetery. We used to, that was where we used to walk, and it was a Sunday afternoon in 2018, October, football game on. I'm sitting watching the Sunday NFL. The Bears play somebody, and Bears are probably going to get beat anyhow. But I was watching a football game, and she came and said, "Let's go for a walk." And I said, "Nah, go ahead. I want to watch the football game." Yeah. A year later, she's gone, and I'm sitting there watching the Bears play football, and it comes back to me. I'm like,
Mm.
I wish I'd have gone on that walk, but it's over. I can't. So, but I use that in my presentation. I do carry that one with me. So the other thing is to understand to, when like I say, I'll do my 160th first of the week. To tell a story 160 times plus another 35 or 40 podcasts like this. Um, it's not easy,
Mm.
but I want to do it. I could stop and say, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm done talking about it. I just want to live my life and do my podcast and not talk about the book or anything. But I want to talk about it because I think I have something to share. And I think when I share it with somebody, I can help them. I always tell people I can't I can't eliminate the journey for you. You're going to go on the journey, but maybe I can take a pothole or a bump out of the road for you, make it a little smoother as you go along. Uh, so that's, my son goes with me a lot when we have, if it's not right here and close to the community, he'll go with me if we go out of town where we have to stay overnight. And it's always nice to have him. Two things: I get to spend 2 or 3 hours in the car with my son talking, which is a great thing. And he's there when we're driving back afterwards, and he's there, and he knows that I don't maybe want to talk for a little while. Maybe I just want to sit and kind of decompress,
Sure.
because when I do the presentation, I think about all those things. I mean, I told a story about saying I love you. I'll see you in church, and that jumps in my brain. I mean, I'm just
Mm.
not saying it. I'm reliving it. I'm reliving that moment when she said that to me. So uh, that makes it a little difficult sometimes, but most of the time I get through it. So when we're done here, I'll go out, and there's a little glass of wine out there left in the bottle. I think I'll have that and take a little walk out back and say, well, maybe it's time for bed. So,
No, that's great. And I love that you see the value in sharing it with other people to help them. There's been tons of research on mindset and happiness, that one of the fastest ways to create a positive mindset and to create happiness for yourself is to help other people.
yep.
And I'd almost guarantee you that the process of sharing your notes with your friend that's a doctor and having him convince you to write the book and going through that process, knowing that you were going to be able to help other people doing that, I'll guarantee you that's part of what helped you get out of your black period and kind of
Oh,
move forward,
definitely.
you know?
Oh, definitely, definitely, definitely. Like we said, back to the thing. I found the words and I wrote them down. I typed them in, uh, and then I had the opportunity once they're in there to share them with people. So yeah, that's the key to the whole thing. Uh, I feel so good when the phone rings and I pick it up and it's somebody I've spoken to a month ago. That I just wanted to call you and tell you that I didn't say anything that night, but it's been a month, and I got this out of what you said, this out of what, this is what happened to me. Uh, I got a, it's kind of an interesting thing. I got a call, it was about 2 years ago. It was in August, and it was a young man. And he said, Mr. Rose, I just wanted to call you and thank you for your book. I said, oh, appreciate that. Thank you very much. He said, no, he said, you don't understand. He said, my father passed away 6 months ago, and somebody gave my mom your book, and she'd read the book. And he said, I'm a senior in college. I'm getting ready to go back to school. I have a serious relationship with a woman. We're thinking about getting married, but whatever. And he said, the other night, I said to my mom, I said, Mom, how do I know I'm really in love? And she gave me your book and said, read this.
Mm.
So I'm going, I guess I wrote a love story. I didn't realize that, but yeah, in a way it is. I mean, our life was a love story. Our life wasn't one of the movie love stories where everything was beautiful and, it wasn't through our tough times, and, but we made it. We made it 50, almost 58 years, missed it by a year. Uh, so, again, when I go back and when I tell people to tell me about your first date, um, my God, I get so many neat stories. Now, mine is unbelievable. Mine takes 3 pages in my book, so I can't even tell you this. I can't even tell you about my first date with my wife, but like I say, it's 3 pages in the book. Um, but when they share these, they're before my wife died, I could walk into a room full of people and talk to them and look at them and, hey, fine, hey, nice, thank you, bye, bye. Now, when I walk into a room, especially when I'm going to do a presentation, I look in people's eyes and I see the pain sometimes
Mm.
that I wouldn't have seen, you know, 7 years ago. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known this person. Now, in fact, almost every one of my presentations is different because of the audience, because I look at them and, it's older people, there's some young people. What is it? Uh, and I see in their eyes sometimes the pain. And everyone in some fashion or another is going through grief. Yeah. If it's just loss of a job, that can be grief sometimes.
Yep.
I write, besides the other thing, I write some stories for, a local magazine and a senior newspaper. Uh, Pretty large circulation with the senior newspaper. But anyway, they asked me to write stories for them about it. And the newspaper, I somebody had said something to me about losing their pet, or somebody lost their pet, and they just didn't understand how this person could be so upset. It's just a dog. And I
Mm.
thought, no, that's not true. So I wrote the story about coping with grief from the loss of a pet. And I got more calls on that and more emails than I got on any other article I've ever written, because people don't understand. I mean, that pet's been with me 12 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard, pretty hard to say, oh, it's just a dog. No, it wasn't just a dog. It was my life. I loved the dog. I don't know whether the dog loved me or not. I mean, did the dog just love me because I feed it? It gave me a lot of attention. Did it do it because I fed it? Is that why? Because I took it for a walk? Is that why it did it? Whatever. I loved it. And so it was really funny when I started. All of a sudden, I'm getting these calls and these emails from these people saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, and telling me about losing their pet. So, like I say, everybody's going through it for some reason.
Well, I can tell you a joke that will solve whether your spouse or your pet loves you more. So if you want to find out which one loves you more, take them both and lock them in the trunk of your car for a half hour. And when you open it, see which one of them is actually happy to see you. That'll tell you who loves you more.
I'm going to use that. I got to use that on my podcast. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good. That is good. That's like um, and when I do these things, I try to keep it uplifting all the time. In fact,
Yeah,
I
right.
u- I usually start out with something like I've got a friend. Well, he passed away in Florida. Name was Murphy, but in college his fraternity, and talking to his wife about 3 months after he died. And we were chatting on the phone, and I said, hey, I said, Murphy always had funny stories. I said, tell me a funny story about Murphy. I need it for my podcast. I always do a joke on my podcast. She
Mm.
said, okay. She said, I got one for you. She said, Murphy always liked to have 3 beers every day. I said, yeah. He said, he had Guinness. I mean, You have to, with the name Murphy, you had to have Guinness every
Yeah,
day.
right. Exactly. Sure.
It's three Guinness every day. I said, what? She said, yeah, he had one when he came home from work. And then after we retired, he had one before dinner. He had one with dinner. And he always had one after dinner. I said, okay. She said, well, we were sitting out on our deck, our lanai in Florida, I guess is. And she said, Murph was having his third beer. And she said, all of a sudden, he said, I love you. She said, I was shocked. I said, Murph, was that you talking or was that the beer talking? He said, I was talking to the beer. So, you know, and that's the kind of guy Murph was. He would have come up with that right at the end. So
Yeah.
yeah, we
It's funny all those
I
little.
love
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
mm, I'd say I love the Trump joke. I'll use that.
Yeah, but it's all those little, you have to have I've got a couple of stories like that from my relationship with my wife. So when we very first got married, you're young and we had one son and we were waiting on the second one and I was driving. We bought a nicer car for her because she had the kids with her and we wanted to make sure that they were safe and it never broke
Yep.
down. And so I was driving the car she had as a teenager in high school. It was a Toyota Tercel.
Okay.
And I drove that thing into the ground. It was paid for, but like the floorboards had started to rot out. Somebody had hit it in a parking lot one time, and I fixed the bumper with black duct tape, and it was just a jalopy at that point. And my wife said, it's time for you to graduate to a better car. And I'm like, well, but the car runs. Like I replaced the transmission in it, and it's all paid for, and it gets great gas mileage. And she said, look, I'll put it to you this way: it's either me or the car. And I didn't say anything. And she said, why aren't you saying anything? And I said, well, I'm thinking.
That was wrong. I'm thinking.
She said, you better answer now or I'll make the
Okay.
decision for you.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Good, 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 good. Yeah, well, yeah, Joe, that's what life's about.
Yeah.
We can't take ourselves too serious. Uh,
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Anybody that takes themselves so serious, I mean, I got some, and I know some people that way take themselves so serious. I mean, I want to go up and slap them and say, hey, just back off. Quit that. Don't be up on that. You're no different from everybody else. You're not that important. Yeah, you may have more money and your car may be fancier and you may be better looking, but you still don't have anything. So uh, that is I see that all the time, with people anymore. And I didn't see it before, I guess. Went through life. If I had listened, the problem is if I listened to my wife and I didn't, we were talking about the money, I would have never lost that money because I'd have never been in the business. She told me not to do it,
Mm,
but I did it. Okay. If I listened to her, I don't know what would have been happened, but I wouldn't have been in that. I wouldn't have got myself in that situation if I'd listened to her. So
sure.
but anyway, that's the way it is. She always had my back, and she still does. By the way, there's a pillow behind me in my chair here that's got her picture on it that a friend gave me, and I put it in my little thing here to hold. So she's got my back today.
All the
She's
time.
making
Yeah. Figuratively.
all
That's
the time.
great.
She's got me back. Yeah. So we I have to tell you that I just got. In fact, the reason I was looking over here, I got the I just did another book, and this book is not a brief book or anything like that. It's called Damn It, and it's a book of short stories, about 10 or 12 short stories. Each story starts with the word damn it and ends with the word damn it. And I just got the proof from the publisher to let it go. So in another month, I might have another book out. So.
Oh, that's great. What are your short stories fiction or are they loosely based on stuff that happened in your life or how'd you come up with the ideas?
Interesting. Short stories, writing the novel was tough. I got it. Short stories are easy to do because of you get the idea and it's there. But what happens? Where do these ideas come from? I'll give you an example. One of the stories in there is called The Cemetery. Now, I said the cemetery is out my back door to my right.
Hmm.
Okay. And I see all these people coming in the cemetery and driving around and doing things. Now, the whole thing is fiction. When I write this story, it's fiction, but it's because of what I see out there and the people I see. So they're in it. They don't know they're in it. This the little old guy with the walking stick that goes through here is in the book. That was one. One I wrote. It's a love story, but it's not about my wife and I. It's about my relationship with a woman when I was in college that I'm not sure that if I hadn't have been better, I would have never met Joyce. Okay.
Mm.
I would have, this gal and I could be. So anyway, but I totally blanked it out different, you know. So I wrote the story, but I wrote it from this guy, and rather than being who they were, well, that changed them all around. But when I got done with it, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to write one from? I call it Love, and then the next story is called Love too because it's the same story from her standpoint. They never get together, they never get married, they go about their separate ways, but they find each other through the newspaper 50 years later to see what happened to them. So it's kind of fun. I wrote one called The Old Geezer, so that was easy. Just write about me losing my glasses and losing my phone, and And I had a this friend who couldn't find his hearing aids, and they've never found him, and they're not sure he didn't need him because they looked like uh, nuts. And he had him by the on his chair by the bowl, and they said, "Did you eat your?" So that was fun to write. I wrote a story about a friend of mine in high school that was kind of a nut in college, and I expanded his adventures, but so that's the when writing the novel, when I decided to do it, I had a story. Okay, I knew where it was going to start. I knew where it was going to end, which is easy. The problem is when you get to write it, you have to have characters.
Mm.
I have to have people. I have to have, and they have to be real people. They can't be just, stick people, so to speak. They have to have feelings and emotions, and you have to put it all into it. So my book is called the novel is called "The Secret Is in the Pasta," which is because it's a murder mystery that takes place in an Italian restaurant. And the guy who's the main character, I write it in the first person. Who's the main character? I lost my wife to breast cancer at the age of 78. He loses his wife in a hit and run, at 28.
Mm.
But it allowed me to take my emotions and put them in him for losing his wife when she was 28, whatever. So it's not me, but the emotions that he's going, the things that he's going to go through. I always tell people, everybody's in the book. The only people that with personalities, that's what you have. You can't create a personality. You can create it by saying, oh, you know what? That Joe Canfield, he was kind of cool with this. And this guy over here, maybe I'll put him together, take the same thing they do. Oh, yeah. So now I got a new character. Okay. And that was fun to do. So uh, the novel was really fun that way. So, and the novel is loose at the end. So it's there for a second one if I decide sometime.
It sounds
There's
like
two,
you get a lot out of the writing process. It sounds like you really
but
enjoy it.
I never wrote anything my whole life.
Yeah.
I couldn't spell at. So, so this is quite different. And I look at it sometimes and go, did I write that? And of
Hmm.
course, with the newspaper and with the magazine, they help me. I send it in, and she come back with some suggestions. Say, you sure you want to use this word? You want to use this word? And AI today now you can do that with too. So that always helps you. Look, yeah, the tough part of writing something is knowing that it's punctuated and everything properly. That's that I'm not good at. I'm sorry. I don't
Sure.
see
Yeah.
when I was in school. If you had something and something, you didn't put a comma before the and, right? At least when I
This
went.
is this is the and comma controversy. It's been going on for decades.
That's right. But now everybody has to have that comma, and. I said, no, 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 no. I don't write that way. I'm sorry. She always comes back and she's put commas. I said, look, whatever you guys want, put commas wherever you want. But I I went to parochial school and Sister Marie never told me I had to put a comma there. So I'm not doing it. I
I'm
refuse.
sticking with Sister Marie. I don't want to get in trouble.
That's right. That's right. And my knuckles are big enough from getting
Yeah.
slapped with a ruler.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, Tom, one of the things we do on the podcast is we kind of ask the guest, is there anything that I haven't asked you about? Or is there anything that you think we should talk about that would be good for our audience to hear? So I kind of, kind of the floor is yours. Is there anything that we haven't covered that's important for us to cover while we're together?
You're forgetting that I'm an old man and I forgot what I already told you. Huh?
That's all right. We can talk about stuff again.
Can we do a playback? Oh, I think, you know, I did a presentation in our local theater, which was totally redone. And was standing backstage waiting to come out. First of all, I didn't think anybody'd show up. And I think we had about 350 people show up, which totally shocked me. I was hoping
Wow.
we had 50. I was hoping we have 50,
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm standing backstage there and I'm looking around, and this theater is gorgeous. They redid it. It's beautiful. And we'd had a dinner party here a couple of weeks before, and I think it was yeah, it was six, three couples, four couples. Anyway, we got to talking about what is life, and a couple of bottles of wine, and what is life? You know where you're going to be 2 hours later? Nowhere. You're not gonna figure it out. So anyway, I'm standing backstage, and I said, you know what? I know what life is. Life is really simple. It's moments in time and experiences that become memories. That's what life is. Now, living life and throw love in there really complicates, but life basically is very simple. It's just experiences and moments in time, and they become memories. So that's what Balloon in a Box is all about. It's those memories, it's those experiences, and to learn to enjoy them over and over again. That's the other thing. I enjoy them over and over. I don't want to say more than the original, but the other thing is this love thing, and I don't know. I think I love her now more than I did before.
Mm.
She because have these little interferences. You know, I don't leave a wet towel on the bathroom floor and get yelled at. I don't leave the cap off the toothpaste and get yelled at. I don't leave the light on in the garage and get yelled at. So we don't have those things. She's not yelling at me about those things. So we don't have those little barriers between loving, okay? We still loved each other, but you know what I'm talking about. You're
I
married.
do. Yeah, sure.
You probably screw up every once in a while.
I know there's a long list that's being kept of every time I've screwed up.
Oh, and they don't forget, do they?
No.
They can go back out. Not 10 years ago,
Yeah.
we were driving along and he said this. What are you talking about? I don't remember 10 years. I never said that. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I got it right here. I remember. I said, I don't know how you can remember that stuff. But yeah, all the bad things I did in my life, I've come back. Uh, yeah, it's just take life for what it is. Don't fight it. That's the other thing. The grief, you can fight grief and you're going to lose. It's going to beat you down. It's going to beat you right in the ground. Just face it. And so, like I said, I called God and said, hey, God, would you get behind me? Because I'm going to take on grief and I may need you to back me up here a little bit. Uh, and, and, and you got to do it. You got to do it on your own, so to speak. Nobody can really help you. Uh, my family helped me by being there to support me, but they weren't going to get me through it. It had to be me. I
Sure.
had to have that. I call that that night when I did the whole thing. I call that my epiphany. When I had my epiphany that night, that was me. It had to be me the next morning, and it had to be me when I said, "Okay, bring grief on. I'll take you on." Um, and I'll do what I have to do to survive, to move on. And then again, we talked about this, but my fear of not being able to take her along with me. Once
Mm,
I learned I could do that, then it was a lot, I want to say easier, but smoother. I knew she was with me. I can take her with me. She's in here. She's in my balloon. Um, I can, I can move. I can do anything now because she's with me. She's coming with me, and I don't have to feel bad about doing it. That's the other thing. People will tell me, say, "Well, I did this the other day, and man, did I feel bad?" And I said, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well," she said, "Al would probably really enjoy doing that." I said, "Well, Al probably would have, but Al not here. You know,
yeah.
he's not here, and he's not going to be upset with you enjoying it." And she said, "Well, I felt kind of bad enjoying it because I knew that's something Al really liked." Well, I'm sorry. It's not, don't punish yourself. You didn't cause it, you didn't cause all this to happen to you. So you have to. So that's what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm sitting here a happy person. Um, I don't. I would, like I said earlier, I'd be a lot happier if she was here, but she's not,
Sure.
and so that it is. It is what it is. So and I moved on and taken her with me, and when my time comes, I'll go. I'll go a happy guy. I don't want to go tonight, by the way. Don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Um, because I got things to do next week. Uh, yeah, it's just I'll tell you the other thing is that it's exciting to me, and I know you're doing a podcast. Is the podcast is really fun, really great. We get to do it live with people in the studio. So that's, we can look in their eyes uh, and the guy that I have is I call him my co-pilot, the pastor. He's a funny guy. So we're always screwing up. And in fact, I've got him. Our name of our podcast is Senior Talk Michiana. And we just did a thing for a podcast for a company called Senior Care Michiana. And he did the introduction for our show as Senior Care Michiana. I know he doesn't know he did that. And I didn't catch it till I was listening to it. It's already gone, so let it go. So I was thinking, I always have trouble with the name. See, yours is great because Canfield, right? I can handle that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
can
a
handle that,
compound
but
word.
yeah, but I can't handle the one I had. Let's see, it's Paillado.
Palladio?
Pia. No, it's Piatto. They don't pronounce the L's.
Mm.
The Italians and Greeks don't use the L's. I was doing the same thing. I went, blah, blah. Then we had one. Uh, the gal's name was Bruggeman, and I had talked to her before, and I said Bergman. She said no, Bruggeman, as in rug. Chris is sitting there, the engineer sitting there. Okay, Rod. I introduced her. Well, I said Bergman. I didn't say Bruggeman. I said Bergman. He's laughing. She's laughing. I went, oh, I did it, didn't I? So yeah.
Ah,
So those are the fun things that Where are you located?
Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I'm at.
Oh, okay. You're just down the road here from me.
Yeah.
90
Not too
miles,
far.
90 miles away. So yeah,
Yeah. Not too far.
yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
That, that,
I love the message, and I'm really happy that you wrote the book. I know the circumstances aren't what you'd want them to be, but you're a great example to people and very inspirational that when you deal with something difficult, you have a choice on how you react to it. And
yep.
your choice has been to move forward, to carry your wife's memory with you, that your life doesn't end because hers did. And you're going to make the best of the time you've got, and you're going to help as many people as you can with the time that you've got. And I just
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on
It's
and sharing that with our guests.
it's just control. Learn to control things. When you're in control, you're going to be all right. Yeah. You
Yeah.
control those emotions and control those things. You're going to be okay. But
Yeah.
you're going to be okay. Keep telling yourself that I'm okay. So.
It's
Okay,
great
Joe.
stuff. Yeah. Hey, when you're when the short story book comes out, give me a ring. I'd love to have you come on and talk about your book.
Sure. I will. I
Yeah.
will. I'll do that. All right. Thanks,
That's
Joe.
great. Yeah,
Have
thanks
a
so
good
much.
day.
Have a great night, Tom. Go enjoy
Okay.
your wine.
Night. Good night. Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay. Okay, guys, like we said in the intro, told you Tom would just be a great guest, and his message is so awesome. We heard him talk about his wife and what a great relationship they had. Not all rainbows and unicorns. They worked through tough stuff together. He lost her to breast cancer right before the pandemic and never written a book. He's written several since then, started a podcast, and has really built a great life going forward under the circumstances under which he found himself. So you heard him say multiple times, I'm a happy guy. Sure, I'd be a lot happier if she was still here with me, but I don't have that choice. So I'm doing what I can from where I'm at. And what a great message. We're super appreciative of Tom coming on and sharing that. You can see why so many places want him to come and speak. He's a very captivating guy. He tells a story with humor. He tells it with without judgment, and just really appreciate him coming on the podcast and sharing it with us. So you don't want to miss all these awesome guests we have coming on. So make sure you come back and check out the next episode, because we're going to keep having awesome people come on. We've got them lined up for weeks and months, and we're very fortunate to have them. So look, James puts it up over here every day. Don't forget to head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are available there. We've got links to all our social media accounts there. We publish a newsletter every weekday. You can subscribe to on our website. And please, please, please like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for us when you do that. So again, you don't want to miss the message and the lessons that all of our awesome guests have to teach us. So make sure you catch the next episode. We will see you there.